Have you ever opened the book of Revelation and wondered, what do all these symbols mean? Why did God choose to communicate through such vivid imagery? The beasts, the scrolls, the trumpets, the seven seals, the dragon, the woman clothed with the sun. Millions have asked, what does the dragon represent? Who are the seven kings? What does the number 666 truly mean? In this video, we will focus on chapter 4 by uncovering the meaning behind every sign, straight from Scripture. By the end, you'll understand how these symbols reveal God's plan, His authority, history, and prophecy. The language and symbols used in this book and in this chapter come directly from Old Testament imagery. These symbols would have been easily understood by early Christians, especially Jewish believers living in the first century. And at the time Revelation was written, Christians were facing severe persecution under Roman rule. Because of this, the message of the book was intentionally written in symbolic language. This allowed believers to understand its meaning while preventing Roman authorities from easily recognizing that much of the prophecy was speaking about them. As a result, Rome, both in its present power and future persecutions, became the model for the enemy portrayed in Revelation. Much of the imagery describing opposition to God's people can be traced back to Roman authority and its resistance to the Christian faith. This is why the book of Revelation is often understood as describing the relationship between God's people and the Roman Empire when it was first read in the first century. Its message offered warning and encouragement to believers suffering under a pagan and authoritarian system that sought to control, and ultimately destroy, the Christian faith. This chapter establishes the vision of heaven and a revelation of what will shortly take place on earth between Pentecost Sunday and the second coming of Jesus. The idea of God's throne in this chapter represents God's power and sovereignty. The jewels represents to beauty and value. The 24 elders mentioned represent majesty and authority. Elders here may be angels who are the spiritual counterparts to the 12 patriarchs and 12 apostles, leaders of a heavenly chorus of praise. The golden crowns represent emblems of dignity and honor. Thunder and lightning represent signs of a sudden display of God's power and authority in a spiritual or supernatural way. The crystal sea is the heavenly counterpart for the Red Sea. It represents anticipated actions of God's salvation to man. Salvation for the Israelites first was at Red Sea with Moses. What is on earth in the story of the descendants of Abraham as well as Christ, and the church is a shadow of what exists in the heaven. The four living creatures with many eyes and wings are not meant to be grotesque or a horror movie with beasts and creatures. These symbolize real things. The ox represents service. The lion represents strength. The man represents intelligence. The eagle represents swiftness. These characters are the attendants of the heavenly worship. Revelation. Chapter 4 reminds us that God is still on the throne, regardless of what is happening on earth. Before judgment unfolds, before history reaches its climax, John is shown heaven's reality, God reigning in majesty, power, and perfect order. This chapter teaches us that worship comes before action, and that everything in creation ultimately exists to glorify God. It reassures believers that no empire, persecution, or earthly authority operates outside of God's control. Most importantly, we are called to live with humility, reverence, and unwavering faith, knowing that our lives unfold under the rule of a sovereign and holy God. If you would like us to continue this series and explore the next chapters of Revelation, let us know in the comment section below.